everybody. Huh?
It's open bubbles.
Oh, well, yay. Happy Saturday evening live tutorial. How's everybody doing wherever you are in the wilds of the internet today? Hope everyone had a great day. We had a fabulous Saturday here at Beading Dreams. We were busy. It's only -7 degrees Fahrenheit in Alberta. That sounds horrifying,
Wow.
Lori. That sounds absolutely terrible. It was misty.
But I'm pleased for you.
It was yeah, Heather will be right there. I am going to run as far as I can to Mexico. Which isn't going to be very far because I don't run very fast. It was misty and warm, actually. So it was like Seattle weather, but with Texas temperatures today. It's supposed to stay warm overnight tonight, and then we're going to get cool again tomorrow evening. So it's the fun, for those of us here in Texas, it's the inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside dance with the plants. For those of us who are plant people, it's like, you know, up north we're like, you know, goodbye and good luck. Like, if you survive the winter, cool. Otherwise, you're dead. Here in Texas, it's like, but if I just bring you in for these, like, 10 days during the winter, you're gonna survive. And then, you know, I won't have to buy another one of this plant that I've almost killed 17 times. Why I think I can save the plant that I've almost killed 17 times by bringing it in for 10 days in the winter, I will never know. And yet, I keep doing it. So, this evening's tutorial is our captured Cabochon Pendant. This is one of my favorite techniques because if you are a hoarder of gemstones and cabochons, it's a really great way to turn them into... Hey, Corvus! Are we singing to Corvus now or later?
Oh, later.
Okay. Then Corvus, forget you heard that. But you better show up for the sales stream or we're going to be mad at you. Anyway, this is a way that you can turn your cabochons into wearable pendants without having to do any soldering at all. This is a completely cold connected class, so there's no torches involved at all in this particular technique. So tools and supplies, what are you going to need in order to make this happen? You're going to need a stone of some kind. This is actually a chunk of Larimar. This belongs to a client, that's why it's labeled. With what she wants to be the front and which end she wants up. So that is going to, that's going to be my stone for my pendant today. We're going to need some sheet metal. I'm using 24 gauge copper. You can use 24 gauge brass as well, 24 gauge bronze, 24 gauge sterling if you're feeling spendy. You know, but, and if 24 gauge doesn't quite satisfy your need for heft in your pendant, you can do 22 gauge. It's just, we are going to be doing all of our cutting tonight with a shears rather than a saw, so it's a little bit harder to cut 22 with a shears. Trust my hands on that because I've done it for clients, and it is not the funnest thing I've ever done on an afternoon. As far as supplies go, that's going to be it. Seriously, you need a stone and you need sheet metal. As far as tools go, you need a little bit more. You are going to need a metal shears to cut your metal. Of course, I've got my fun Euro tool shears that I absolutely adore. Did we order some of these, Heather? The Euro tool shears?
We did.
Okay, so we have a tool order finally coming in for the first time in a really long time. And we will have some of these to sell. So if anybody's been coveting one of these Euro tool metal shears, chat us or message us and we will put one aside for you.
Yes.
You're going to need a bench block or bench block equivalent, and also a chasing hammer. If you don't have a chasing hammer, a ball peen hammer will work just as well. You need a marker or some kind of marking device that'll mark on metal. Sharpies are great because they are non-permanent, and since theoretically you could scribe on the metal, but with this particular pendant it's really better not to, because there's a chance that you'll be able to see some of those scribe lines. You're going to need a hole punch. Wow, that was unexpected. Hole punch or a drill. And then it never hurts to have your basic wire working tools on hand. That's going to be your chain nose pliers, your round nose pliers, and your wire cutters. I don't think we're actually going to use our wire cutters at all, but you know, once again, it's never a bad idea to have those on hand. You're going to need a prong pusher. If you don't have a prong pusher, that's okay. You can use your chain nose pliers. And then you're also going to need some sandpaper. 320 grit is going to work great, and maybe steel wool, I'm not sure. So I got my steel wool kind of at the ready, but I may or may not actually use it. Now, I never did fix my focus after last night's tutorial, which, by the way, I did successfully finish my pendant from last night, and it will be for sale on our sale stream, which is going to commence at around 7:30 or 7:45 this evening. So if anybody was coveting that pendant that I was making last night during the Freeform Friday stream, again, it is finished and it will be for sale in just an hour or so here on the Beading Dream stream. Okay, so let's see if I actually have focus. Not so much with the focus. I remembered after I went online that I hadn't changed my focus from last night's freeform tutorial. God, I hate how it just like snaps from like in focus to out of focus so quickly. And again, autofocus is not my friend. Unless I can catch it at just the right point. So anyway, it is Saturday on the Beading Dream stream. That means we are going to be following up this tutorial, thank you Lori, with a live merchandise sale. That's our Sips, Shopping, and Shenanigans sale. I totally meant, oh for goodness sakes, just focus on the thing. Yay, hi Sharon. We got an in-person Sharon today, which was amazing and fabuloso. Seriously though, like, if I could just get this in focus, my whole life would be worthwhile. Okay, that's a little bit better. Focus first and then zoom. That's... oh my god, really? You're not though. You're not in focus. Oh, Lord. It's Saturday, y'all. Did you know that? It's Saturday. It's a bit of a bonkers day here at the Beading Dreams because everyone came like all at once and then stayed, there we go, for most of the day. Is it in fact 6:27?
Yep.
Just checking.
Yeah, it was 6:26 a minute ago.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take my piece of rock and I'm going to set that onto my sheet metal. So I have to put it, okay, now most of us metalsmiths are like, conserve all the sheet metal possible. Okay, but here's the thing, okay, if we go back and look at the project photo for this, there's a border of metal around your stone, and that border of metal is actually what supplies the metal for the prongs. I know it's Larimar. It does look like the stone of the ocean. Corvus is not wrong. If you want to start the drinking game early tonight, feel free. We are going to be doing one of our shaker and spoon cocktails tonight. I think Heather has the recipe card for that one. I meant to get you guys to vote last night, but then I forgot, so we just made an executive decision. So we will be doing the Winter Sun this evening, so I will be mixing that on stream. That's a fruity cocktail. We ordered pizza because we were all starving. Actually, I don't know why I'm giving you that, because I need that. We were all starving to death, and so I was like, what goes better with pizza? Fruity cocktail or spicy cocktail? I decided fruity cocktail. So you need to make sure that you leave enough metal to make the border around your stone, and also to have enough metal to come up and over your stone to actually set it in place. Now I'm going to place my actual prongs here at my 4 compass points on this, so rather than doing them at the corners, because it's going to be a little bit awkward since this corner is kind of cut off on the stone, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to make my life a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stone, I'm going to make sure I leave a generous border around it, and I'm going to trace around it with my Sharpie. And you know, when you're doing that, you need to make sure that your Sharpie is actually marking on your metal, because tracing around your stone with your Sharpie does you absolutely no good if it's not actually making marks. Shocking, I know.
What? For real though?
For real though. Okay, so there's my stone. Now I'm going to, I think the client for whom I'm making this would prefer it if it were symmetrical, so I'm just going to go ahead and sort of bump this corner out like it were an actual full rectangular stone. And then I'm going to, and I'm going to do the same here so that it's a little bit more balanced. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my border around it. Now, you could actually measure this if you wanted to. I am not feeling that precise tonight, so I'm just going to eyeball it. This is not always the best idea, just so that everybody knows. It's like, don't follow Heather down the path of harmony. You know, don't always listen to Allison when it comes to whether you...
Very important lessons.
Very important lessons, it's true. Life lessons right there. So if I wanted to do this more precisely, what I could do is I could take a ruler and I could measure. This is about 3/16 of an inch. Yeah, it's about 3/16 of an inch from the border of my stone. So I could just measure out, make a series of dots, and then just connect the dots. Alright, my next stream upgrade is going to be looking at putting my camera on the other side, because it's like I cannot do anything without bashing my camera. Now you got two options as far as making a way to hang your stone, okay? Option one is the one that I'm going to do tonight, which is I'm going to put two holes, one there and one there, and that's going to provide me a place where I can attach a beaded strand or a chain or something to my stone. Option two is what you'll see in the project photo here, and the way that you do that is you actually will incorporate into your tracing here a long sort of straight bit that's centered like that. And so what I would do is I would ignore this here, and when I'm cutting I would cut up and around that and then roll that down. That would make my bail. But since this particular client has requested two holes instead of this bail, I'm gonna ignore that and pretend that doesn't exist when I'm cutting this out. Oh my gosh, Amy, that's amazing! Amy has given away 14 boxes of things and packed 14 boxes of things. That's freaking impressive. God, moving is the pits, y'all. It is absolutely the worst. Like, you know, after you're moved is great when you're in a new place and blah, 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 but the act of moving is just horrifically painful, at least for me. Okay, so now I'm going to take my metal shears and I'm going to cut out around this outside line. Hi, Asa. See, I was wondering if I had just not noticed Asa saying hi before. Now I feel better.
No, he was tardy.
Was he tardy or was he lurking?
He was tardy.
Oh, tardy to the Beading Dreams stream. What is the penalty for being tardy to the Beading Dreams stream?
I don't know. I guess I'll just have to find out later.
Alright, so I'm just going to cut this out with my metal shears. Now, as I've said before, when you're cutting a shape out with your metal shears, sometimes excising your shape from your metal in kind of a bigger chunk, but that's still smaller than your whole sheet of metal can make that a lot easier. Right? You have to buy more at the sale. I like that. That's a good penalty, Lori. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Oh, Stripes is at fault. Well, we can't blame ASO if it's Stripes' fault.
No, I mean, elderly cats have a lot of things.
It's true.
Okay, well,
I think
we'll
Stripes
let it
just... I just think you have to buy something for Stripes at the sale then.
Yes!
Okay,
That
so...
was shrill.
It was a bit. But you're far away from the microphone, so hopefully nobody noticed. So when I'm trying to cut my shapes like this, I find it helpful to, because there's so much, you know, marking on the front side of your stone, or of your metal, I find it helpful to switch to the back. And so what I've got here is I've got a little bit of imbalance. I've got some really rounded corners on this side and some really square corners on that side. So I'm just going to take these corners, and I'm just going to round them out a bit. If you wanted to, you could absolutely draw that. Okay, that's a thing that happens when you're working with metal. It's not the most pleasant, so be careful, y'all. Ow!
No.
I was trying to get the metal out of my finger, and instead I shoved it deeper into my finger.
No.
Well, too late, Heather. I already did it. But there's no blood, so at least if I were bleeding, I would know why. Because, of course, the Beading Dreams game that we hate to play and yet play so often is Why Am I Bleeding? What was the other game that was less fun?
Pick up hoop sticks.
Oh, right, Pick Up Hoop Sticks. Also known as the entire giant project I was just working on fell on the floor, and now I have to pick it all up. So, you know. Oh, tiny bit of blood. Very, very small. VV small blood. Like,
Small blood, but at least you know
yes.
why you're bleeding.
Tiny pinprick of blood. I have made blood sacrifice to the stream this evening. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my finishing process to make these edges pleasant and comfortable to wear, because of course nobody wants a pendant that is going to lacerate them or you know, snag their clothing or make them feel uncomfortable in any way. So we got to work on these edges a bit to make sure that they are pleasant to wear. So this is a multi-step process. Yes, that's it. Totally, Corvus. It was a blood sacrifice to the toad gods, but only the tiny toad gods, because there's really, like, there's not much blood here. So I hope they're not hoping for a lot, the toad gods. But I got a little bit for them. Also, hey, I'm wearing burgundy today, so if I bleed on my shirt, it won't show. It's always a plus. So this is a multi-step process. I'm going to start by tapping the edges of my metal with my chasing hammer with the rounded side. So that, again, if we're going to go back to the project photo to, you know, to reference, see that kind of beveled hammered edge around the outside of my pendant, and that's what I'm going to do now. That's step one, and that's actually a really great step as far as finishing your edges go. Sometimes it's all you have to do. Now, I personally like to go back over that then with some sandpaper and some steel wool, just get a really nice finish. But if you're trying to be quick and dirty with it, this tapping the edges technique is pretty fantastic. So it's going to get a little loud. If you need to mute me, please feel free to do so. When you see my hammer stop hammering, you know that the loudness is done, at least for the moment. So I'm going to use the round side of my chasing hammer, and I'm just going to hit on the edge of my metal, and what I'm going to try to do is hit half on, half off my metal. So what I'm creating is this beveled edge. Now, if you don't like that beveled edge look, you don't have to do it. You can just skip straight to the sandpaper and the steel wool. But you might have to do a little bit more work with those two tools in order to get yourself a nice edge. Sorry, it's my hammering face. Ooh, that's exciting, Smee. Okay, so I've gone all the way around the outside. It's already exponentially smoother than it was before, but it's still not quite to the level that I like it to be. So I'm going to take my 320 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to sand the edges. And since I did that beveling, it shouldn't take a whole lot of sanding. This is wet dry, but you can use just regular conventional sandpaper as well. I just get the wet dry because I like to have options. And then I am going to take my steel wool, and I'm going to take, and this is quadruple zero steel wool, so it's pretty much the finest steel wool you can get, and I'm going to go ahead and steel wool around the entire outside. And by the time I'm done with the steel wool, I should be able to literally run my fingers as hard as I want along this edge and not be afraid that it's going to cut me in any way. So if you find that you're not at that point after the steel wool, then maybe go back and do a little bit more work with the sandpaper. Okay, so those edges are feeling really nice. Now it's time to cut our prongs. So, again, we can measure or we can eyeball. In this instance, I am going to go ahead and measure. So my piece is 2.5 inches across. So that means that the center is at 1 1/4. No, I'm not using a square, so we're just gonna pretend that this line is gonna be straight. It's not bad. It's mostly straight. Straightish. Straight adjacent. And then let's measure this. It's 2 inches, so your center is at 1 inch. And mark that. I once had a client come in, and she's a fairly accomplished metalsmith, actually, but she's obviously a more instinctual or instinctive metalsmith than I am, because I was marking up a piece like this, and she was like, "Why are you measuring and making all those marks?" It's like, well, because I can't eyeball the center for crap. So if I want my prongs not to be absolutely cattywampus, I need to measure things. So basically each one of these lines that's between what's indicated as the border of our stone to the border of our metal is going to be one of our prongs, and this is the center of it. So I'm going to just create 2 lines, one on either side, so that I have a grand total of about 1/4 of an inch of width for that prong. So it's basically 1/8 of an inch on either side of that center line. Now I'm going to use my shears to cut in these prongs. Now, if you want to be more precise, use a saw, not a shears. Okay, as I'm doing this, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a problem inherent with shears in that it's kind of sometimes hard to stop in the right place. Now that being said, yes, Amy, because it's going to just bypass the bend in the stone. The bend in the stone is there, and the prong should come right on the side of that. Which is one reason why I chose to place my prongs for this particular stone north, south, east, and west instead of at the actual corners. Sorry, that was Lori, not Amy. There's A's, and it's Saturday, so... Yeah, I wish you were close to Corvus. You need to come visit. Or we need to come visit you. We'll sleep outside. It's okay. It's California. Never rains there, right? So, I'm going to go ahead and cut these prongs with my shears. So, what I find when I'm cutting prongs with shears instead of a saw, or cutting anything like this with shears rather than a saw, where I have, you know, ideally I want to end either at this line or slightly inside of it. What you don't want is you don't want to end your cut outside of this line, okay? Because remember, when we put our stone down, we traced around the outside. So if we cut this too short, our stone's not going to be set securely. It's just going to kind of rattle around. It's better if you have to err on going a little bit to the inside of your mark. And so what I find is I'm going to take my shears and I'm going to use just the very tips of them, and I'm going to set them so that the tips are right inside that mark, and then I'm just going to snip all the way to the end, and that's going to give me a fairly precise cut. So I'm just going to snip on each of those lines that I made that's indicating the outside of my prongs. Okay, so again, so this center line is just for marking. It's this line and this line upon which I'm cutting. And again, if you are all about the precision, you could use a saw for this instead of shears. Not everybody gets along with saws, so that's why I use the shears instead in this class. I like saws personally, but apparently Heather did not just knock the soap into the sink and make a whole lot of bubbles. Well, who did then, Heather? Was it Corvus?
Crap! It was Corvus, yes! Or Asa, because he was tardy.
Okay, well, either Corvus or Asa apparently just knocked our soap into the sink and made a whole bunch of bubbles. So one of y'all better get your asses here and clean it up. That's what Heather said. Didn't you hear her? That's totally what Heather said. I just quoted her word for word.
It's clean now.
But wait, I just told Corvus and Asa to get their asses here. We need an excuse.
Nothing. It is not clean. Get your asses here.
See? That's what she said.
Yeah.
That's what she said. There are secret bubbles, Corvus. They're in the back room. Okay, so now I've cut my prongs, and so I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm just going to lift them up towards the front of my piece, which I usually declare the front as the side I've been drawing on, but really if there's like a giant actually if there's like a giant scratch, say down the middle of your metal, that's actually a good side to put on the front because your stone's going to be on top of it. But if like your edges are scratched up or messed up or anything, you can always make that the back. So you could really bend these prongs either way. But what I'm going to do is I'm just grabbing them with my chain nose. Wow, that exposure, super excited about that shiny copper. And I'm just going to bend them forward like so. So what I have is my little tab prong, piece bent essentially at a 90-degree angle to my metal. Which again, apparently it has decided that it's time for its close-up and it's going to be so shiny. So shiny. All of the shiny. Okay, so there is, so that basically right there is my setting. So now I'm going to take a second and just make sure that my stone will still drop into it, which I think it will. And now it's time for me to get rid of all of my Sharpie. So that's where, wow, there's like no alcohol in there. That's exciting. I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. Oh dear, so many paper towels. I don't need that many, I just need a little bit. Alright, let's see if I have any rubbing alcohol in here. Rubbing alcohol or denatured alcohol, either of those will work for this particular task. And it should just rub your Sharpie right off of your metal. If you're in a situation where you don't have access to rubbing alcohol, in most instances, spit will also work, but you didn't hear me say that on the internet.
What?
Exactly. Heather definitely didn't hear me say that on the internet.
Definitely not. Why would I hear anything? I'm way over here.
And then the other thing that we want to do, in addition to removing all of our lines, is before we set our stone, we want to make sure that these edges here are not, I'm sorry, Talitha, I'm an old school crafter. We spit on everything. Well, okay, so maybe you don't want to buy the project from last night, but I promise I don't spit on the beads that we sell. Oh Lord, yes. So these corners here are a little bit dangerous, so I'm just going to grab my file and knock the edges off of my corner so that instead of a stabby point, I have this more rounded edge. If you don't have a file handy because some streamer did not list it on the supply list, you could absolutely use your sandpaper for this as well. Someday I'll be one of those people that like has everything in hand, but I don't think that day is coming anytime soon. Possibly that day is not coming ever. Just because as soon as I get like 10 things organized, I acquire like 15 more things that I then have to organize. Alright, so there we go. So now I've just knocked down my corners so that I'm not gonna lacerate myself or anyone else. At this point now I'm going to Make sure this is nice and flat. And I can take off my tape that's labeling what is the front and which direction is up. I'm going to drop that into place. You may need to bend your little tabs outward just a hair to accommodate that. And then I'm going to grab my prong pusher and I'm just going to push those little tabs over my stone so they're holding it nice and securely. Now, this is a thing that you need to make sure is that you have to make sure that there's enough metal here to get a prong that's long enough to go up and over your stone. Because sometimes when I have had clients who want me to make these for them, or students, they'll cut that border too narrow and then they don't have enough metal to actually set their stone, which is unfortunate, that since that's the whole point behind the exercise. And then last thing we need to do is punch our 2 holes. And we're going to do that with our screw down metal punch, so you could also do this with a drill if that's what you have access to. I like the screw down metal punch because it's easy to use on stream, but definitely have a drill and I use it fairly frequently. Oh my god, I had the worst time today drilling 3 plastic mahjong tiles. Like, of all the things that I thought were going to make me sweat today, that was not on the list. But whatever evil demon plastic these things were made of, and I've drilled plastic before. Like, I'm not ignorant of the theory and of the idea that plastic melts and you have to drill slowly and all of these things. But this demon plastic, it's like it kept clogging up the drill bit and the hole. It didn't matter if I drilled slow, drilled fast, drilled medium, used lube, didn't use lube. Like, this was these were evil demon plastic mahjong tiles, and it was not fun. Well, it was also for a certain customer who is possibly also related to evil demons, but to be fair, I don't think it was her fault. I think whoever made those stupid mahjong tiles had some kind of deal with the devil. Agreed. Alright, so I've marked my holes, and I'm just going to take my screw down metal punch and twist it down until I have my punch resting against my metal. I'm going to make sure it's aligned with my dot, and I'm just going to twist my punch clockwise until my punch goes through my metal. It's easy to feel that because you'll feel it kind of get really, really difficult, and then it'll get easier. Another way to tell when your punch has gone through your metal is if your metal will move on your punch freely. That means you have gone all the way through. Then I'm going to twist my punch counterclockwise. And don't be concerned if your piece moves on your punch. Like, that's totally okay. Twist counterclockwise until your metal falls off your punch on its own. Do not yank it off your punch. I guarantee you will break your punch at some point. Usually at the least convenient time possible. Alright, now I'm going to punch my hole on the other side. Now, if I did want a smaller border around my stone, this is how I would accomplish that. Alright, what I would have done is I would have, so say I wanted to actually decrease this border size by 50%. I would cut this to the size that I've cut it. I would skip all my edge finishing steps. Okay, I would not finish any edges. I would then mark my prongs and cut them, and then I would go back, I would scribe or draw a line at the border size that I wanted, cut that off, then do my hammering, my steel wool and my sandpaper, reverse that, sandpaper then steel wool, and then I would set my stone so that my prongs would still be long enough to hold my stone in. And then I'm gonna just grab my, I don't know where I put my rubbing alcohol, so I'm gonna grab my steel wool to get rid of that last little bit of marker there, and there you go. That's it. That's our captured cabochon pendant. So it's a super duper easy setting that you can take any chunk of rock or any chunk of anything, any found object, and you can set it. The only thing you really need to be concerned about is you need to make sure that these tabs are long enough to go up and over and set that securely. But this is in there. It's not wiggling. It's not jiggling. It's not rattling at all. Like, no rattle over the microphone, no rattling. So really, really easy and fun way that you can set your cabochons. You can make them into cool pendants, brooches. Well, Talifet's wiggling and jiggling, but my Larimar is not, or my client's Larimar is not. So yeah, just a really fun and easy way that you can set your things, make them wearable. Also not very expensive. If you use copper, brass, or bronze, like my entire 12 by 12 sheet of the copper that I used for my project today, when it was whole and entire, was $20. And so I'm using what a 16th of the sheet. So it's pretty economical as far as materials cost goes as well. Can I finish and wear it tonight? I guess I can. Amy, we'll see. We'll see how much other stuff I have to do between streams to get prepared for our cocktail and sale shenanigans. So that's it. That is our captured cabochon pendant. Ta-da! So this is Larimar on copper. This actually does belong to a client, but I will see if I can pop a chain on it and wear it for the stream tonight so that y'all can see it live and in person on the sale stream. So, oh dear, no, the yawns cannot come yet. The yawns need to wait for 3 more hours. So I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. We're here on Lover's Lane in Dallas, and we are here to feed your need to bead Monday through Saturday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. So if you're local in Dallas, please come see us. We want to see you. If you're not local in Dallas, of course, you can find us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. We stream Wednesday. Now that we're back from the holidays, we're back to our normal streaming schedule. That's Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Sorry, caffeine. Central Time, with complimentary tutorials, plus Thursdays at noon, and live merchandise sales every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. That means that tonight is a live merchandise sale night. We are going to be featuring some more of that new merchandise that I grabbed on my shopping trip last week, including Talifet Tiny Shinies. Yes, Tiny Shinies are coming for you. And lots of really cool, fun stuff. So, live merchandise sale to commence in about 30 minutes here on the Beading Dream stream. That's going to be between 7:30 and 7:45. If you're going to join us for the sale, don't forget it's sips, shopping, and shenanigans night. That means grab yourself a cocktail or another indulgence. Put your bead buying pants on. Those are your comfy pants. And get cozy, get ready for some retail therapy in your living room, office, or wherever you typically watch the Beading Dreams stream. If you're not going to join us for the sale tonight, we will miss you terribly, but we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, Wednesday at 6 p.m. with a new tutorial for you. So if we're not going to see you till then, have a great weekend, and if we are going to see you in half an hour, then we will see you in half an hour. All right, toodaloo, guys.